So let me. Woo, okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Broderick. If I haven't met you, I'm the new volunteer coordinator at CASA, and welcome. We're so thankful and glad that you're here. Super excited and enthused about it. This is one of our first in-service meetings that we're having. You know, you might have seen in our newsletter that we have a survey at the end, and we've been asking our volunteers questions, giving them an opportunity for their voice to be heard. And one of the things that we heard was that you wanted more education. You're walking into trauma and you wanted to feel more equipped to address some of the issues that many of our families are facing. And substance use disorder is a huge one. And so we're hearing from you and we're listening. So every other meeting when we gather once a month is an in-service meeting. So coming to these or listening to them, I'm recording one right now, can go towards that continuing education, those 12 hours that we ask you to do per year. And then the other meetings that we're having are oriented around self-care. So really just having opportunities for you to embrace rest and relaxation, because we understand that this is a really hard position to be in, especially as a volunteer. So we want to care for you well. So those other meetings are geared towards that and community building as well. So it's exciting for me to see you guys get to gather and talk with one another. I see new people. I have a couple of gals back here that just finished their training. They're getting sworn in next week. And then, yay! See some of our veterans in the room, and it just makes me feel so happy that this group is gathering together and get to learn from one another. So today we have a very special speaker. Her name is Yvonne. She has worked extensively with people who struggle with substance use disorder. We know her through Hope Court, which is a great program that we have here in Floyd County that really walks alongside of families who have cases and who are really at risk, and substance use disorder is at the heart of that. And so it's an amazing program. She's worked for them, and now she is sharing her expertise with community corrections now, and we're happy to have her. So without me getting more, welcome Yvonne.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Yvonne. So I get the opportunity to come and share some experience, strength, and hope with you all, right? So as she told you all, I no longer work for Hope Court. I work for Hope Court as the case manager over all of Floyd County. And I got the opportunity to apply for a position with Community Corrections to work with extreme, intense, high-risk felons. I do really, really well with criminals. Okay, I just do, you know, and some people can't. And I just truly believe that is not my career, that's my calling, right? There's a difference. And I prayed about it because Hope Court was my baby and it was all mine. I got the opportunity to start up and I didn't want to hurt people's feelings. But you know what? You go where your heart's supposed to take you, right? So I applied for the job and I got the job. So that is a little bit about where I'm at. So we're going to play a little game and it's going to be interactive. So I want you all, I'm going to step out of the room. I have some markers up here. I want you all to come up here and write down what you think of me. Do I have kids? Am I married? How old am I? Am I educated? What's my background? What do you think when you see me, right? Because we automatically judge someone and automatically we assume we know something. We sum people up immediately. It's our defense mechanism. It's how we communicate. It's not a bad thing, right? But it's what we do as human beings. That's just what we do. So I'm going to step out of the room. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Trust me. I've done this a gazillion times. You can even guess my weight. I don't care. Like, I'm serious. Like, I have no secrets when I tell you that. So I want everybody to come up here. You can say loudmouth. You can say her teeth look horrible, even though they're fake. So I just put that out there. You know, but anything you want, right? So I'm going to step out of the room and I'm going to give you about a minute or two and then I'm going to come back. Okay? All right.
Oh, that's the one I wanted.
Sorry. Yeah, I just wrote three.
I have like 10 that just flow through my mind. I think subconsciously we kind of like
I did too, I
have,
saw the already.
you may not be thinking about like conscious things, but I think subconsciously when we see people, it's like an automatic.
Aware. Like some people I am aware of doing it, but.
Oh.
Okay. Sorry.
Sorry, yeah.
Let's observe it. So.
Yeah, kids, two kids, very specific. First time I've had to ask somebody, I just wasn't right. S-E-E. Put on there you don't like her books.
Passionate was what I was thinking.
Whoa. I'm not gonna look. Come on. I don't like it. I don't do group activities. Courtney, go grab the second one. Oh, it's mine. There you go. One for me. Oh, there you go. Strong is another. All the kids that I saw, only one, which was 14, said anything about if I remember that one.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah. I've seen like five or six little doing this. Not one asked anything except for, and she's the others never did. If they, I don't know, do they know? But because kids are funny. Yeah. Because I expected like, oh my God. What did you do to your pet? All right, confident, experienced, bold, 2 kids, good public speaker, love to laugh, beautiful, stylish, captures attention, married, no kids, intensely passionate, empowering, outgoing, fun, beloved, dedicated. Thank you. But guess what? I'm also a prostitute. I'm a thief. I'm a whore. I'm a drug addict. I'm a crackhead. Uneducated. So when I was 12 years old, my father took me for my first abortion. He was the first man that had ever impregnated me. By the time I was 14, I had my second child by my father that we also aborted, right? My mother was a chronic alcoholic. There are 20 children. There are 7 different dads that we know of, right? So I'm the baby. I was not raised by my mother. When my mother had me, she gave me away because she wanted to get sober. So I'm the only one that talks like I talk. I was talking to someone here tonight. My whole family's from Northeast. I'm the only one that talks like I do. Everybody else talks funny. No offense. My mom and dad still think talk funny too. So why I believe in your program and what you all do is because in 1982, the FBI's came into my father's home. He had guns everywhere. My father was military, and they were going to investigate the things that they thought were going on in that home. And he told the FBI to get the F out of his house, and they left. Because see, he was a military. He was a
He was an officer in the military. He was also, then when he retired, he became a police officer, and everybody in the community loved him. There was no one there to fight and advocate for the kids. Thank God for CASA. Thank God. And that is why I so believe in what you all do. So what I can tell you is I continued down that destructive lifestyle. By the time I was 12, was the first time I was locked up. By the time I was 13, I was in my first treatment. I have not been sober that long. I have only been sober since 2008. I was out on the streets. I remember the first time I tried crack cocaine, I did it for 18 years, and I walked the streets of downtown Louisville for 11 years. Everywhere I went to jail. No matter where I went, I took me with me. It has been 14 years and my oldest son still has never spoken to me. He walked out of my life because I was a chronic alcoholic and drug addict and prostitute, right? Gave him everything on the outside, but there was nothing right on the inside of that home, right? And he walked out. He's never met the woman that you all see today. He doesn't believe any of those things exist in his mother. When I think about going out and drinking and drugging, I look at my 2 children that I have. I have 3. I have 1 bonus child from my husband. But I look at my children, and my son, who doesn't speak to me, knows me when I was out there drinking and drugging. The daughter I have today knows me only sober, right? So we do change. When I got sober in 2008, I did not know how to read, but I could steal from you, I could lie to you, I could manipulate, and I could con. I had a DCS case. I did everything they wanted me to do except get sober. Lost that child. But nobody fought for him, right? We just fell through the cracks. I got sober, I had my daughter, and somebody down at New Albany Token Club said, why don't you go to school and get your GED? And I was like, what? I don't even know how to read, but I wasn't gonna tell nobody, right? And I told my sponsor, because I work a 12-step program in Alcoholics Anonymous. My sponsor taught me how to read, and I got my GED. And I don't know about you, but when you work with chronic alcoholics or drug addicts, we are balls to the wall or nothing at all. So I'm gonna go to college. Well, I'm not going to Ivy Tech, I'm gonna go to IUS because I want an IU degree, right? And so I go and I don't get 1 degree, I get 3, you know, like, hey, let's just do it, right? And so I was just maddening with that, and that became my obsession. So one of my greatest defects became one of my greatest assets, right? Because when you are so far in drug addiction and alcoholism, you are willing to go to any length to get that drink, to get that drug, right? I know for me, I was. And so my sponsor taught me how to take that and turn it into what I wanted. So I wanted that drink and I would go to any length. So I turned that into education. I was willing to go to any length, right? And you all, I would sit there and bawl my eyes out every night doing my homework because I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to type. I'd never used a computer. I had one girl go, I'll write all your papers. And I thought, no, because if I allow you to do that, then I'm cheating and I'll never learn, right? And it took me a long time to get where I'm at today. And my butthole is puckered talking to y'all, and I'm a nervous wreck, and I'm scared to death. I call y'all earthlings, right? Y'all are those normal people, right? Like if I go into a room full of addicts and alcoholics, I'm comfortable. They're my people. They know what it's like to survive. They know what it's like to do what I've done, right? We were talking about at this time, we were talking about Judge Granger, and Judge Granger sent me away. I was in her courtroom, and she's like, I am tired of you showing up. And she locked me away. She was like, see ya. And you know what? When I was in Family Hope Court, you all, I got the opportunity to work for her. The same judge that told me that she was tired of me coming in her courtroom believed in me enough to allow me to come work for her. That's pretty powerful. You know, we are not guaranteed recovery. Never, ever are we ever. We are one away from a relapse. And I know that if I relapse, I know what I'll do. But that doesn't mean it doesn't take the phenomenal craving away. We are never cured. Every morning I hit my knees and I say, good morning, God. My name is Yvonne Haub. I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict. How can I serve you? Please keep me away from a drink and a drug. And I say that every day because I want God to know that I know the devil's there and they want me to just suffer. They don't want to kill me. They want me to suffer the devil because I call it the devil, my disease. But today I'm going to take him and I'm going to serve him the best that I can. And that is what I do every day. And I give back and I sponsor women and I get the opportunity to come and talk
to people like you all, to let you all know that we do recover. We are not saints. We are not perfect, but we can become productive members of society. And no, we don't always become perfect parents. Life doesn't get perfect just because you get sober. But today I can go to bed and not pass out. I can wake up to an alarm clock, not come to wanting a drink. It drives my poor husband nuts. One morning, our alarm was going off at 4:30 in the morning, and he was like, ugh. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we get to wake up. He goes, I am not in the mood for your breakfastness today. You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, I'm just saying, for me, I am grateful, right? And so that is the key for me, is I have to stay thankful and grateful. Every day, after I say my prayers, I write 3 things that I'm grateful for, because I don't want to forget where I come from. I am grateful for a light switch, because when you go to jail, you don't get to turn the lights on. I remember one time, you all, and it's simple for you all, but I was standing in front of my refrigerator and I'm bawling. My husband goes, are you okay in there? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm standing in front of a refrigerator. I'm not doing commissary, which is how you order your food in jail. And the food in here is not from the food pantry, because I've been so drunk, I've wasted all my money on alcohol and running the bars, and I don't have anything to eat, so I go to food pantries to have food for my kids. I actually went to the grocery store and paid for it. And so I can tell you, like the first time after I get sober, I was at Save-A-Lots on on State Street, and I remember calling a girl from the Albany Token Club, and I go, am I supposed to pay for this food? And she was like, well, yeah. And I'm like, with green money? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, I can't swap tags. And she was like, no. And I was like, my first year of sobriety, you all ate bologna with that. I was not paying for food because I was used to stealing it. I ate high on a horse when I was stealing food. I did everything. What are they gonna say to me? I'm a cool pity party. I gotta feed my kids. I'm lying. I'm drunk. I'm spending all my money at the bar, and I don't have any money for food to feed my kids because I'm selfish and self-centered, right? But we do recover. Right? And people will say, well, people that don't know me, that when I come to things like this will say, well, that you don't look like that. Well, I'm just a dressed up garbage can. Right? That's all I am. But I can tell you, I am all of those things, but I make a choice today not to be those things. Because see, if I take away the alcohol and the drug, guess who's still here? Me. I'm the problem and I'm the solution. It's not just about removing the alcohol and the drugs. It's about changing the stinking thinking. I have criminal thinking all the time. My first thought's not the right one. I go with the second one, because my second one's from my gut, and my gut is God. And my God is not from heaven. He's not from the Bible. It's called good, orderly direction. And sometimes it's a police officer, sometimes it's a judge, sometimes it's a kid, because my God is everywhere if I'm willing to hear his message, right? So I don't judge anyone, because I don't know who he's going to put in my path to get the message to me. I don't have a clue, right? Don't have a clue. Had a guy get out of jail one time, and he come in my office, and this is an example. He goes, Yvonne, you know what your problem is? He goes, you know what you haven't realized since you've been sober? And I'm like, what's that? He's like, since you've been sober, you didn't realize, but when you were drinking and drugging, so was your morals and values. Nobody's never told me that. Never seen that man since, right? He had just got done doing a 30-year bit in prison. He was there to get transferred back into the community, and I got the opportunity to assess him, and I remember what he said to me, and he's right. So when we're drinking and drugging, so is our morals and values, right? We have them in there deep down inside. My mom never, ever, and nor did my sister who raised me. I did not sit in second grade and go, can I please be a prostitute, a piece of shit mom, a thief, a liar, get locked up, steal from everybody, and be a horrible person? Can I please be that? No, but my choices that I made and the people I chose to be around gave me permission to do those things, right? And I also was that same person you didn't want your kids to hang around, because we don't ever drink alone. We don't ever get high alone. We will take you down before we'll help you get up. And that's just what we do, right? So my life was about me, right? And I turned my life inside out, upside down, and found, my road to recovery. I have been court ordered. I've been in treatment centers. I've been in halfway houses, and I have never, ever, ever completed successfully. Never. I would leave. I'd say, I want to go to treatment. I want to go to a halfway house because I don't want to be in jail. It was all lies, right? But I really meant it at that time. So not everybody goes, and don't think that you failed them or they failed because they no longer are sober, because they've been through treatment, or they went through the healing place, or went away to, a halfway house or whatever, but the seed was planted, right? And it's up to me to water it and nurture it and get it up, right? So I always knew what I needed to do, but I wasn't ready. And some of us die before we're ready. Because there are so many people that want the program of 12 steps. There are so many people that need the program of 12 steps, but it's only those who do it. It is a program of action. So when I don't want to go to a meeting, and when I don't want to go speak, and when I don't want to help another suffering alcoholic or drug addict, I do it anyways, right? Because it gets me out of me. And that's how it is, because if that's what I was going to do drinking, that's what I do sober, right? And so like tonight, I've already worked with 2 girls that I sponsor. I came here, then I'm going to go to my home group tonight. I mean, that's just how it is, right? But see, that's what I would do if I was drinking too, right? And you get the opportunity to learn about your character defects and who you are and who you authentically want to become. Because for so long, alcoholics and addicts like myself, we mask it. We don't know who we are. And I also know that at a very young age, I can remember being as young as 4, my father started raping me. So I learned real quick what goes on inside these 4 walls stays in these 4 walls. Keep your mouth shut, right? You don't tell nobody. And that's the way things went in the 60s and 70s. That's just how it was. And that's what we did. My dad was an outstanding, perfect person in society. Everything was great. And it taught me how to do that. So when I was out in my addiction, I had the house that looked perfect. I had the husband that looked great. My yard was always immaculate. My son was always perfectly clean. Everything on the outside looked right, but nothing was right on the inside. Sometimes I go by houses and I think, wonder what's going on between those 4 walls, right? Because we can make things look really, really good when they're not. But the greatest gift that I've ever received in my life was my disease of addiction. Because I lost everything at the very end. And I started shooting dope up in my arms. I became an IV user, something I swore I'd never, ever do. And I lost everything in 2008. And I didn't know losing everything meant that I was going to find the most valuable thing. I was going to find me, right? I didn't know it. I was homeless and I was living in my car. I was pregnant and my son was ready to disown me. And I told him to leave and he left and I've never seen him since, right? What I can also tell you is that that son of mine in 2011 saw me at a store and I didn't recognize him. So I carry that around. Do you know what it's like to look at a 27-year-old man and wonder if it's your kid or not? And he lives in Clarksville? But see, that's the wreckage of my past. It's my consequences, right? It is none of my business how he thinks, feels, or believes. If and when he ever wants to come and meet who I am today, I will be ready. If not, I gotta let that go. Because see, I can fester into that and play victim and continue using that. Everybody feel sorry for me, right? Or talk about my past and my childhood, right? Everybody has a past. Everybody has their own skeletons. I say mine dance out in the closet, outside the closet now, because I ain't got no secrets, right? Because secrets make us sick. Because I can tell you that what I did for all those years, and the reason why it was so easy for me to be a prostitute is because my father taught me how. I was knocked out emotionally from my neck to my knees. There was nothing there, nothing. I had to learn how to love. I had to learn how to trust. I had to learn how to be okay with me. And I've been sober since 2008, and I can tell you that I'm still working on that. My sponsor asked me Friday night, how authentic are you to yourself? Got a 5. I got homework on that. I went around my family on Saturday and I was my authentic who I am today. And my siblings told me they were proud of me. I wasn't raised with them. I was amazed. Wow, maybe I'm not such a bad person after all. But I can also tell you when I was growing up, you all, my siblings called me a monster. They always told me I was a spoiled brat and I was a monster. Because see, my dad bought me everything I ever wanted. They didn't know until he was dead 7 years he'd been raping me since I was 4. So the reason why I was getting all those gifts and those new shoes and getting to go to Burger King and take my friends is because I was being raped, right? But what I can tell you is that created a real mean son of a bitch out on the streets. I wanted to fight everybody. And if it was a man, the bigger the man, the more I wanted to fight. It'd be nothing for me to get locked up. And I would pick fights with men. I would go to bars. I loved hole-in-the-wall bars. I would hot wire a motorcycle and steal it just to piss you off. I was notorious for that. Horrible, horrible, right? But what I can tell you is when I got sober, I took parenting classes. I learned how to read. I learned more about myself, and I learned why I do and am who I am. But it doesn't make me a bad person, and I don't have to be ashamed of it, right? But what I can do is I can change that, and I can show others that you're not alone, right? And that's the best part. And that is why I say I work with criminals better, right? Because been there, done that. That's bullshit. Don't try me on that one, right? Like, you know, so, and a lot of the people that I work with now, some of the females have went to jail with me before, right? So I don't boast on the fact that I'm in recovery, right? Not at all, but they know the wreckage of my past. Because see, one thing about alcohol and drug addicts, we're like magnets. We walk different, we talk different, we act different. I can find a drug addict or an alcoholic anywhere you take me. I was an international auditor for Master Lock. I was in Mexico, caught charges in Mexico, because guess what? I got caught up with the mafia. Right? Had to sleep with that guy. He was great. He was giving me all the cocaine I wanted, right? It was wonderful. I was wondering why we were walking down the street, people were opening the doors, and I just thought, oh, this is great, you know? No, because I can find me anywhere, right? And anywhere I go, I am there. And so, you know, I was in school, you all, at IUS, and I was there a couple of years, and I called my sponsor, and I can tell you where I was standing. Remember, like it happened 20 minutes ago, and I called her and I was like, guess what? Guess what? And she's like, what? So nobody on this campus has ever seen me naked. That's a big deal for this woman. You know what I mean? Like, that's a big deal for me. And am I okay sharing that with you all? No, it makes me super uncomfortable. But what I can tell you I do when I do this is I go back there and I hit my knees and I pray to God for me to carry his message and not my ego. God, choose me as a vessel. Tell me what I'm supposed to say, even if I don't want to. Because this is the kind of stuff that reminds me, because the longer we're sober, the harder it is, because the pain's further away. Because see, I've made new Christmases. 1985, I was in jail at Christmas. My mom still reminds me every year that my sister Diane and I were in jail. My sister Diane's dead, and that's who raised me, so she gets out of it. I hear it every year at Christmas, right? Because those are the things that I would do. And I didn't think I was harming anybody. I harmed everybody. You know, I was the same person that would get obliviated drunk the night before and think I'm okay going into work at 6 o'clock in the morning. I should have been that person that is just sitting in prison for vehicular homicide. You know how many times I've drove under the influence? I go down the highway now, you all, and I look at people and I'm like, I wonder if they're in blackout. Because I can promise you, if they'd have pulled me over at 6 o'clock in the morning, I couldn't pass the breathalyzer because I was still drunk from the night before. But I'd have told you I was sober. I was a functioning alcoholic. No, I wasn't. I was surviving. When I got sober, sobriety's taught me how to live and taught me how to face facts about my childhood, about my life, about who I am. And I get the opportunity to share things like this with people like you all, right? And I don't understand how y'all volunteer to do that stuff. That is beyond me. I'm still learning how you normal people are so selfless. That's something my sponsor's teaching me, because we're selfish and self-centered. Meet an alcoholic or drug addict. We'll do anything we can to piss you off, to get what we want to get. And that's real hard to lose that when you get sober, right? So they'll tell you, well, go somebody, right? So it's still, so I look at you all and I'm like, God, you all have a gift that I strive for every day to have. And I fight to be that good person you all are inside. So you all are attraction for people like me, because you all just have it naturally, right? I don't. I fight and fight and fight every day, you know? And it's just amazing that this person who I am today gets to wear a badge, right? Like, this is like, that's dangerous, right? Like, what? Right? How amazing is that? But I can also tell you that I am one of the only officers that I don't carry it and show it. I cover it. I'm the only corrections officer and police officer that goes down to the jail that covers their badge. Because I know what happens when I've been in jail and an officer comes to talk to me. I ain't gonna tell you shit. Right? And I go down to jail every week because they trust me to go down there and talk to people, right? And just give them a shot of hope. That's all we're supposed to do, right? Say, I believe in you and no one else believes in you because I had the same thing happen to me. When a judge tells you in Kentucky, I had a judge tell me that I was a menace to society and I was kicked out of the state for 10 years. And that's pretty bad in Louisville Metro. Just saying, like, that's pretty bad. That ain't nothing to be proud of, but that's pretty bad, right? You know, and that was in 1988. Like, I mean, it's just crazy, right? So when you work with families and you know that they have substance abuse, know that no human power can relieve us from our alcoholism. No one can save us. No one. We are the problem and we are the solution. Because if that was the case, my mother and my family prayed me sober back in the 80s and it didn't happen, right? But there is someone deep down inside, and for me, I'm like I'm like an onion. I'm like a medallion onion. Like you peel back the layers, right? And the longer I'm sober, the more I peel back those layers, and I realize why I do what I do and who I am, right? And it's really hard for me to get to the core and be okay with who I really am. I mean, when I got sober, I couldn't even tell you what my favorite color was because I became such a master manipulator. I could ask the person over there, well, what's your favorite color? And if they said red, I would go in my head, I want to be on the red spectrum. So they would like me. Always manipulating. Never had a thought of my own. Had no idea how to do that, right? None, right? So I get extreme with it sometimes and I'm quite blunt, but for me, honesty is the best policy. Because a lie will kill me and a lie will get me drunk, right? And that is just the God's honest truth. So I'm going to do this other thing. I'm going to go around and ask everybody how you eat an Oreo. So how do you eat an Oreo?
Stuff it all in.
Okay, what about you?
3 bites.
Awesome, how do you?
Twist, cream on.
All right, how about you? Okay. Okay, how about you, ma'am?
Just the cookie part, no cream.
Okay,
I just take a couple bites.
okay.
I break it apart, look, and then I get a piece and my dog gets.
Exactly. How about you?
Always with milk.
All right,
Straight no chaser.
okay.
Dunk it and then 2 bites.
Okay,
I dunk it and throw the whole thing in my mouth.
there you go. All right,
2 bites, no milk.
all right.
All at once.
All right, so guess what? Every one of us just ate an Oreo, but we did it different. That's how people's recovery is. My recovery will get the next person drunk or high, but it works for me. And that is an exercise that I do down in jail too, because so often we want to tell people how to get sober, right? We want to tell them what we think will work. But if the end result's the same, how's it matter if they get there? Right? So recovery is like eating an Oreo. The end result's the same, but we all have our own way and we can learn off each other, right? I had one inmate say he freezes his, it's the best ever. And I was like, what? He was like, yeah, you freeze them and you dunk them and then they're crunchy. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, right? Or one girl told me she puts peanut butter on hers. You know what I mean? So, and then one girl was like, oh, you take a fork, you put it in the side and you dunk it in the cup. That's the only way my husband now will eat an Oreo. You know what I mean? Because we can learn. You know what I mean? Like we can learn off each other. Doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's wrong. And you may try it, and it works, right? So just know that every case you deal with, every family you deal with, their recovery is going to be different, but it probably will work for them. And they'll find their way, right? They will definitely find their way. And is there any questions you all have for me? Because I'm like freaking out up here. Let me just be real honest. I'm a little freaked out up here, but this is okay, right? Yes, ma'am.
Well, how do you approach the parents that just aren't ready? They're just not interested in any kind of treatment or engaging in total denial.
So like, how do you mean total denial? Like, do they have a case opened up because of substance abuse?
Cases open because they failed a drug screen, but they won't take any more drug screens. Or they will take them but swear to you that they don't know how that got on their drug screen,
Right?
because they didn't use that. And they don't need your services and they don't need to go anywhere because they're
So
fine.
I'd be like, okay, so you think your life is manageable, but you've caught a DCS case, normal people don't, and you're using illegal substances, so you're willing to go to jail and lose your kids for meth or cocaine. You're gonna tell me it's not in your system? Okay, well, guess what? I can take a drug test right now, mine's clean. Really? Like, I'll tell you the best is when I get them down in jail and they're like, my life's fine. I'm like, what? Yeah, everything's fine. I'm gonna just do this. I'm like, do you know where the fuck you're at? And that's what I say to them. Like, do you know where the fuck you're at? Because I'm leaving this and you're not. Like, you're sitting in jail and your life is unmanageable, right? Sorry, but I mean, that's how I talk to them. I mean, but honestly, if I go into jail, you all, prim and proper, go, do you think you need treatment? Because I'm gonna tell you what happens when they used to do that to me. Yep, sure do. As soon as I got in that halfway house, I bounced. I was gone. I was running with him, her, them, and then I got an FTA or an escape charge. But I conned her or him into letting me get out, right? But Judge Granger, I couldn't. Just saying. She's so much smarter than people think she is. She's just a sweet woman on that bench, but you're like, oh, she knows. She has dealt with alcoholics and addicts long enough, she knows, right? And thank God we have someone like that in this world, because she does believe that we can become productive members of society, right? So I would just be like, you think your life is manageable? And I also can tell you all, if I took all the drugs and alcohol that I have ever consumed and put it on this table, and you take me back to 12 years old and told me on August 10th, because it was the day that my dad died in my arms, August 10th in 1981, that if I would have done any of those drugs or drank any of that alcohol, it was going to take me down this road, and I was not going to be until I was in my 40s before I get sober, and I was going to go to jail, and I was going to lose my family and my kid, and I was going to be a horrible person and steal and lie and cheat and rob. I'd have said, you're a liar, give me two. Because see, I had the isms way before I ever put a drink or a drug in me. Behavior. Right? So now that I've taken the alcohol and drug out of there, I'm still stuck in here. So that's why I have stinking thinking, and I have a sponsor that helps me, because I do not make any decisions on my own, because my best thinking got me in jail. Right? Because when I drink or drug, I end up in handcuffs or bedrooms. That's what I end up putting with me. And I don't care, and I will destroy people's lives. Because I'm selfish and self-centered. I am willing to go to any length to do that. So today I get the opportunity to go to any length to stay sober. And if it means standing up here and getting the opportunity to share with you normal people and be super, super uncomfortable. And then I can go to my home group tonight and be like, I just ran all those earthlings, man, that was hard, right? They'll be like, yeah, I know, I work with them. I'm like, I know, right? And that's probably why I get along better with criminals. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. So there's that, right? So, do y'all have any questions?
Tell us about your husband.
My husband now?
Yes.
Okay, so my husband now, he is military, or he was. He's a veteran. He's also in recovery. However, my husband was fortunate. He was never one that got into drugs. He was just he was just a chronic alcoholic. He was a veteran. I'm his fourth wife, alcoholic and addicts, we just love that, right? You know how two alcoholics, when you know they're in love, by the second day, there's a U-Haul in the driveway. That's just what we do, right? Like, that's just how it works. But no, my husband is a veteran. He is the greatest thing on God's green earth. God did not allow me to have anybody in my life, and I believe, what I believe is it was because God was allowing me to focus on me and become the wife that I am today. Right? Because I love being his wife. And it's amazing how he doesn't judge me, and he knows my past, and he loves me for just me. And I never, ever thought that would happen, right? And he is in the program. He's also in Alcoholics Anonymous, and he sponsors men, and he does his own thing, and we keep it separate, right? If he don't go to a meeting, that's his shit. If he don't talk to a sponsor, that's his stuff, right? And stay out of it. Now, irony of it, my husband makes whiskey for a living.
He's been at Heaven Hill for 24 years, right? And he's always like, don't you want to come and tour? Nope, sure don't. Like, I don't know how you do it. He goes, well, if it was a vodka factory, it'd be different. I'm like, nope, can't go in there. Even when he brings, they get stuff at Christmas, he can't even bring it in the house. Because see, that'll talk to me. That's the disease I have. Yeah, I'll know what's in the closet, and I'll walk past the closet and be like, Yvonne, hey, don't you want a drink? Totally forget all about my recovery. Even when he went through prostate cancer, he had pain pills and it was killing me. And I hit him about 3 days after they're hidden. He calls me, I'm at work. He's like, where's my pain pills? I'm like, dude, you haven't had them in 3 days. You probably don't need them. He goes, it's really bothering, ain't you? And I was like, I know where they're at. And I hid them in the cabinet. It was driving me crazy. It took everything I had, right? I was like, oh my God, oh my God. But normal people don't think like that. I mean, there's normal people who have pain pills and they'd be expired. I didn't know I had them. What? How do you not? Right? You know what I mean? So I got the opportunity to meet my husband's late wife. He found dead on the kitchen floor. She overdosed and died. He took a nap. He got up and she overdosed and died, heroin. She was a nurse, and some of us have to die for some of us to live. My husband went through therapy. He went and read the book Codependency No More, worked on himself, and he saw me at Serenity House talking to the women, and he was like, I'm going to meet her someday. And then he asked me out, and I was like, I don't know who this crackhead is. Because he's been sober like 30 days. He's at Serenity House. Ugh, I ain't dealing with that, right? And one of the girls that I sponsor is like, no, he's been sober for a long time. I'm like, oh. But the best part about that story is I didn't know and didn't pay attention to the three-legged animals in the meetings, which I call men. They're three-legged animals. Because a lot of women, when they start going to meetings, they're coffee trotting. They get all pretty and they got to go to the coffee and they're trying to strut around all these men, right? So I'm like, no relationships. Get better first, right? And I always used to say that, I used to tell everybody, yeah, it's been like 8 years and nobody's been asking me on a date. I guess God's letting my body get a break because I was a prostitute for so long. Thanks. You know what I mean? Like, you think all kinds of crazy stuff, right? But I got the opportunity to go out with him, and we've been together ever since. But I'm very, very blessed because he is one of us, meaning me, one of me, like an alcoholic. He understands the wreckage of my past. And we also included in our wedding vows that if either one of us relapse, we will be divorced. And I don't know that people would ever, normal people don't do that. But you're not going to kill me. I'm going to do everything I can to fight for my recovery. And if you decide to drink, you will no longer have me as your wife. Because my recovery comes first, right? And one day, I was mopping the kitchen floor. He goes, who's the number one man in your life, or number one person in your life? And I went, God. Well, who's next? Recovery. Well, who's next? And I went, the girls I sponsor. Well, who's next? My sponsor. Well, who's next? My kids. And he goes, hell, I'm never going to ask you that again. And I just stopped and I said, Jared, if I did not put those things first, I would not be the wife that I am that you married. I have to stay focused on that. You will never be number one. Because if you love me for who I am, it's because all of those things come before you. And we lose focus from that when we get in relationships. More so when you take two alcoholics. Because what I always say is two alcoholics don't always make a good combination. Right? And you got to set those ground rules. And a lot of people don't do that before marriage. And we have to, right? So, anything else about my husband?
No, I'm just wondering how he was putting us with you.
He'll tell you. He was like, man, she'll give you a run for your money. And he's a real quiet, but you know what? When you look at my husband, he looks like he's just like this mean bad dude. He's covered in tattoos, good tattoos. There's a difference. He's covered in tattoos but he's quiet as a mouse. You know what I mean? He's a quiet guy, and he's just like, but he's the sweetest man on earth. You know what I mean? He's got the greatest heart ever. So he's a good man if he can tolerate me, trust me. He's actually my king. I think he's the best thing ever. But
How old is your youngest?
my youngest is 13.
What does she know about recovery?
She knows that her mom is an alcoholic. She grew up going to meetings at Alcoholics Anonymous.
It got so where her father, because I got pregnant with her during a blackout, because I was a blackout drinker. And I wasn't ever with that man. But a few years ago, he took me to court and he no longer wanted our daughter going to meetings because there's adult content in AA meetings. And that's, it's a catch-22 because in order for me to stay sober and not have a babysitter, I had to go to meetings. And so she knows that I sponsor women, and she knows who they are because they come to the house every week. She knows she can't come in the room when we're talking. She knows that I have a sponsor, and she knows that alcohol and drugs made me someone that was a bad person because she's never even got to meet her brother because of her mom's alcohol. So,
How do you have appropriate conversations with children
I don't.
dealing with?
I told you I was a horrible mom.
How should we? Because
Like
you
I
have
tell
that
you, I'll be the
conversation.
first one to tell you I'm not doing that. Like I am, like I tell her too much sometimes, because I'm just very blunt and very open. And so for people, like I have a girlfriend of mine, her son's 10 years old. She's been sober 20 years. He has no clue. I'm like, how do you do that? But I am all or nothing. Like I have to have everything open and out there. Because if I start to master manipulate, just say, oh, I'm going with friends, those little lies become bigger and bigger and bigger for me, for this alcoholic. So I don't know how to answer that, honestly. So for me, because I grew up with my mom in the program, and my mom I always knew my mom was going to meetings. So I followed what I knew. Not that that was right or wrong, but that's what I knew. And so I can't answer that. Like because so many parents struggle with that. Like, how do we tell our kids that?
Yeah, even DCS sometimes, like the kids are removed and the kids are told like, well, your mom's sick or your mom's, she's doing this or doing that. But and even older kids, like older than 9, they don't know that it's drug related. And then they're shocked someday when like parents are in jail and they find out and they're like, wait, what? They were using drugs.
Right.
That's what made them treat me like this. So I just wonder.
I just believe if you stay, because kids are so resilient. And if it's your children, they deserve to know that I have a mental obsession. I have an allergy. 1 is too many and 100's not enough. I have something hit my lips and I'm off and running. Bottom line. Normal people don't have that. I can watch normal people all the time at restaurants and I'm thinking, drink that. Why is that sweating? Like, what are you doing? I don't get it. Like, I'm like, at holidays at my in-laws, and I'm like, my sister-in-law had a glass of wine, and I never knew glasses of wine were like the real glasses of wine. I thought you filled that thing up, didn't know that. I was like, what? And she had a buzz, and I'm like, she was done, and I'm like, what? Who does that? I don't know how to do that because I've never drank to get a buzz. I've always drank to get drunk. I've always wanted to get an ultimate buzz, look outside myself to get more, right? And so for me, I have to tell on my disease everywhere. My professors knew I was in recovery. My employer knows I'm in recovery because the more people that know, the more people watch me, right? And so for me, I find it very vital for my kids and when my grandkids get older, from them to know, and my family and my employer. Because if I start acting crazy, somebody better tell somebody, right? Hold myself accountable. And it's not the greatest answer, but it's the only one I got. You know what I mean? Some parents don't want to tell because they're ashamed. I'm not ashamed of it. I am grateful I know what's wrong with me today. Yes, sir.
I just want to give you some praise. First of all,
Thank you.
Very difficult for you to be able to get up and say what you said. I have had the benefit of seeing involvement support with you through a case, and it was actually my first experience in Hope Court, and I saw everything. I knew a little bit about your past because you revealed that in a less graphic way in that section.
Right.
But I see the power that your past struggles have been turned into such a powerful tool that the lives that you are changing because of that is, I hope that you look at that as worthwhile. And that's a gift, because I saw the way you not only interacted with moms and dads that were on those calls, but the people like us who are on that call, and just so, I know I wrote you an email right after that, like, I was like, you know, and I'm just so glad that you are in whatever role it is, you know.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions?
I have to say, I have a degree in counseling, that's all I'm saying.
Right.
I struggled, and it wasn't until 4 years later when I was a bartender that all of that education came to me, because I was like, oh, I see it now, you know, because my professors would say, well, you're not an addict, you don't understand.
Yes.
You're struggling. And your knowledge and wisdom and training, I mean, has just in this 30 minutes has been 3 years of college. So thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
How many times did you struggle trying to get sober before you were able to get sober? Do you know?
Well, in my safe deposit box at the bank, the only thing that's in there is 92 white chips.
Okay.
So white chips are a desire to stop drinking that you get at Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, right? And those are the only ones that I've kept. I had more, right? Because see, I could quit all day long and I would throw out my booze. I'd tell everybody I'm not drinking no more. I didn't know how to maintain my sobriety one day at a time. Like I could quit right now, but by the end of the night, I'm like, man, liquor store's still open. Oh man, I got an electric bill due. If I get him to come over, he'll pay it. He'll bring some cocaine, maybe a fifth of whiskey. Okay, that's all I'll do. And then tomorrow I'm gonna quit again. Right? Or I'll go dry for 2 or 3 weeks and try to do it on my own, which they call the isms, means I sponsor myself. Right? I could never get sober on my own. And it wasn't until I got into action and got into a 12-step program and started working the steps and working with another alcoholic to teach me why I do what I do is where I'm at today. Right? Mm-hmm. And it only takes one time, right? And we don't, and the drugs and the alcohol today are non-forgiving, right? And so many of us alcoholics and drug addicts don't realize that even though we're sober, our disease is pumping iron. If I go to drinking, if I drink tonight, I'm going to drink like I've been drinking this whole time. Because that phenomenal craving is inside of me. I have an allergic reaction and the phenomenal craving kicks in, and they have scientifically proven that my brain is wired differently. It lights up different than your brain does in a scan, and we're sick, right? We're wired differently. And we have that phenomenal craving kicks in and we're off and running. You can't stop it. You know, you cannot stop it. Do I want to be there with my kids? Yes. Right? Do I want to get home in time for my kids to get on the bus? Sure do. But my son got so good with my alcoholism, you all. At 8 years old, he could go outside and tell you how much his mother drank by the way my car was parked. How many times I lived off of Beeler, and I pulled my car in the back of my house. I lived in a shotgun house, and I went through my neighbor's yard like 3 times. At one time, he put a stop sign in his backyard. I replaced his fence 3 times, and I hit the stop sign. Or I'd go to sleep with candles lit because, you know, I'm going to be with this great mom, and everything's going to smell good. And I'm going to do everything because I'm drinking. I got buzz. Yeah, right. But at 8 years old, he could educate me on that, right? And so every time I quit, I said I meant it, like I was done, right? But this last time, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was tired of the way people looked at me. I didn't want to go in the hospital and have track marks. So I thought it was okay just to drink. So I drank at the very beginning of my pregnancy vodka every day, very, very heavily. And then I thought, well, I'll go down to Albany Token Club. They'll keep me sober till I have this kid, and I can take vodka in my bag there because nobody can smell it. Why alcoholics like myself think nobody can smell alcohol is beyond me.
It is the dumbest thing. Yes. And I swear, and I can never count past 2 because anybody ever say, how much you drink? Just a couple. Couple. I counted 2. 1, 2. Might be 2 cases, but it was a couple. And so that was my intentions this time. I was going into Albury Token Club. They were going to help me stop drinking. I was going to have this baby, and then I was going to go back to my life, and I was going to keep working, doing what I was doing, drinking, having my whole entire life. But what happened was I went there every day, and I kept hearing them say, keep coming back, get a sponsor, work the steps, help another alcoholic, right? And my sponsor got me into service work, and I became part of something I'd never been a part of. They became my family, right? Because I didn't have a family. By that time, nobody wanted anything to do with me, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. And I was horrible. I was a great worker. I was a wonderful worker, but I slept with everybody too. Like, I was that employee. I mean, seriously, I was. And I worked in warehouse work. I was an international auditor. I've been to 22 different countries, so I could put on the outside, make it look real, real good. Right. And I mean, you tell me how to do something, I could do it. I couldn't read, but I could read blueprints like there was no tomorrow. And I had my CDL license and I could move trucks. Right. And so that's what I did. I was a laborer and I was good at it, very good at it. But everywhere I went, I took me with me. And I was going to get sober, but I was always thinking I was managing my life. Right. But I wasn't. I was surviving. I was passing out and I was coming to. I was never putting my body to sleep. That's amazing when I know I'm sleeping. I'm not passing out. I get to wake up to an alarm clock. How phenomenal is that? So when your alarm clock goes off tomorrow morning, remember that. You know what I mean? Like you get to wake up to that alarm clock, right? Because I had no control over nothing. The alcoholism told me when I was going to pass out and when I was coming to. I used to tell you I was an early bird. What it was is I wasn't an early bird. And you'll find this with a lot of people in addiction. They'll tell you they're early birds. It's not that we're early birds. We wake up because our body's withdrawing. That's what it is. We're not early birds. We get sober long enough, about 8, 9 months into it, we realize we can sleep past 5 o'clock in the morning. What the hell? And when you get older like me, you don't need as much sleep and you get up early anyway, so it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So what the heck, right? So, anything else?
Will you come back and do another one of these?
Yes, ma'am, if you would like.
What do you recommend telling the parents who are trying to maintain right now?
Maintain their substance use or maintain their recovery?
Both.
If you're trying to control something, you have no control over it. Because if you think about it, you all are earthlings and y'all, that's what I call y'all. Y'all are normal people, right? You don't go by, I'm assuming, but you don't go by, say a case of beer and say, I'm only going to drink 2 today, and I'm only going to drink 2 in 10 days. I'm only going to drink 2 New Year's Eve. You know what I mean? Like you just buy it, you drink it whenever, right? If you're trying to control something, you have no control over it, especially in addiction. Right. And then if they're trying to, what we call white knuckle is where you're just barely hanging on, but you're staying sober. You're not sober, you're dry. You're powder dry. You're not doing anything to treat your disease other than you've removed the alcohol and the drug and you're still stuck with yourself. What are you doing to work on the problem? Because we are the problem and we are the solution. Does that make sense? I hope that helps. It makes sense in this head. I just don't know if it sounds right when it comes out.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. I've just a short time in doing this, but I've often wondered, parents in recovery, they have this list of things to do to get their child back, right?
Mm-hmm.
A list of things to do to get their children back, and then how do you, because it's necessary, right? But paying attention, you're like, this because it's day by day by day by day. And how is there a balance there without pushing too hard?
There's the hardest thing for someone in addiction, we always say it's the B word, balance, right? It's, because it is so difficult. So what I always tell people, what I was taught when I was going through it, Do what's in front of you today, no more, no less. Because what happens with alcoholics and addicts, we think about what happened yet. So this is what I tell my girls that I sponsor. You got 1 foot in yesterday and 1 foot in tomorrow, and you're pissing on today. Right? Because we're thinking about what we did yesterday and, oh my God, we got all these things to do over here next week. What are you doing today? Sitting in victim, doing nothing. Right? Because that's what happens. That's what they do. And then they got to tell everybody they're victims. Oh my God, I got a case tomorrow. I got to go to court tomorrow. Tomorrow ain't even here. What are you doing? So you tell them, put your head where your feet are. And I'll say, when they call me and they're, and I'm like, look down, where's your feet? Get your head where your feet are. Get back into the day. Do what's in front of you today, no more, no less. Worry about tomorrow when tomorrow gets here. Because we have rat races going on constantly. And then when we get sober, our brain's going 60,000 miles an hour. Like, I mean, it's just crossfiring constant. Like, I'm talking to you all, and I've got like 3 conversations going on in the back of my head. I mean, that's just how my brain works. And it works for me. Like, it just does. So yes, and then we'll play victim and we say, oh, it's so much. And then I'm like, okay, so what do you got to do today? Nothing. You're freaking out about what? Okay, because really today, the only thing you got to do is not put one in you. That's it. It's that simple. And that's the hardest thing for us to do. So it is a lot, but it can be managed. You do what's in front of you today, no more, no less, right? One thing at a time. That's how you normal people do it. I'm just saying, we can learn from y'all, for real. Like, seriously, that's how y'all do it. I mean, seriously. Anything else?
Will you write a book with all your sayings?
Now, I can tell you nothing that comes out of my mouth is unique or genuine. It is something I've heard or been taught by other women in recovery, right? Because my sponsor taught me when I first got sober, Yvonne, when you speak, you are only repeating what you already know. When you keep your effing mouth shut, because I like to talk a lot, as y'all can tell, when you keep your effing mouth shut, you learn new information. So learn how to be quiet. So my first few years in sobriety, even when I go to discussion meetings, very rarely will I ever speak because I'm there to learn, right? Because when you're not speaking, you're gaining new information. Because when you're talking, you're really only repeating what you already know.
I'm kind of in awe, so I cannot even formulate any questions. I need a couple days.
Right, I get you, I get you. So
Amazing.
thanks. Now, I'm nothing without you. Yes, sir.
I kind of missed what you
Hope Court.
And you're working in corrections. What is it that you're actually?
I am a community corrections officer, and I get to be a re-entry coordinator, and I get to work with the extreme high-risk felons in this county to, when they come out of parole and or DOC, which is prison, to see where they need to be in order to be reunified into the community and or if they're capable of. So I say I get to work with the most broken souls that nobody wants to work with anymore, and they've lost hope. You know, you just got to remember, like, and so for me, working with murderers and child molesters and rapists, those things are not triggers for me. They're really easy because I didn't choose to be an alcoholic and drug addict. Who's to say they chose to be that too? If they have a disease and there's no sin greater than another sin, then there's no disease greater than the other. So that person belongs, that's somebody's mom, that's somebody's daughter, because it's women too, and that's somebody's son. You know what I mean? Like, who's to say they chose to be that person? And if they're coming out of prison and they've done their time, they're better than me because I know who I am. And I think I would have enough balls to blow my brains out if I was stuck with a disease like that created me to be a monster like that. Because I couldn't look myself in the mirror. It was hard enough for me to do that when I was out there. Notice this too when you go to your houses. Very few alcoholics and addicts will have mirrors. Very few. We don't want to look at ourselves. We had. We're chameleons. Very few alcoholics and addicts have mirrors in their home. We're chameleons. We don't like to look at ourselves. Whenever somebody celebrates their first year of sobriety that I sponsor, I always buy them a mirror, full length mirror. You know what I mean? Because we don't look at ourselves. Scared. We don't like the image. And how often do you truly look in the mirror and look in one eye and look at your soul? That's something we're taught to do when we get sober. That's hard. Because when you look into your soul, you remember every sin, every person you've ever harmed. And that hurts. Because then you realize you're not so perfect, right? God made flaws, and that's okay, right? The only person perfect got crucified on the cross for it. Nobody knows I am who I am unless I tell them. Because see, I can dress myself up, nobody never knows, right? And so many of us are like that. We hide. I don't hide anymore. And that's my freedom. And that's why I'm proud to say that I'm an alcoholic and drug addict, because I know what my problem is. And today I live in the solution. That's all I got. That I share with my clients for you all. Never make anything simple. Never, ever do I ever. Welcome. I have it hanging in my office.
Yep, it's hanging in your office. Well, thank you so much, Yvonne,
Thank you
for
for having
coming
us.
to see us. We really, really appreciate it. Courtney has sung your praises for quite a while, and you definitely fit the bill for, you were all she said and more, so thank you so much for coming. Thank you all for coming. We do have another meeting that will be here on December 9th. So we'll be actually in this building. It's just a little holiday gathering. We'll just have some food to share and really just get to be with one another, and we can share and chat with each other. And then feel free to stay for a few minutes and introduce yourself if you see someone you don't know. And thank you guys so much for coming.
Lauren, I just want to say you kind of raised the bar for us in service.
Yeah, she's pretty awesome. Yes, so she's super great, and you know, we do have some other ones that are coming up. So we have somebody coming that is going to be sharing about trust-based relationship intervention. We have some people coming that are talking about domestic violence. We have a grief one coming up because that's something that our children deal with frequently. They're dealing with loss, and so we have an inserts on that. So I hope that you guys continue to come, and yeah, but yes, she set the bar extremely high. Thank you all again for coming. Feel free to grab a snack or water on the way out. And don't forget to enter your time for being here. That's right. Please.
Yes,
Yes.
every minute, every
If
minute.
you are not an Optima yet because you're a new person, just, you know, write, I'll remember
What's that?
that you guys were here. And then
Been through my time.
Come
Come on, I didn't think about that.
yeah, you're
I occasionally make a mistake.
You did good.
I'll just
Oh, it never grabbed it. Right here, right there. Hi, how are you? Wow. Karma will be there tomorrow at court.
Well, I know
Courtney will be
she.
there. I will be there. Is Carrie might come tomorrow. So no. Yeah. If it's just like a small court day, like there's only one or two cases being heard, then just one of us will go. But
No, it's
if it's
good.
Figure out what's what.
Yeah. Yes, well, Kerma is our MVP. She does she keeps all of our reports straight.
She was married to my brother. My brother was.
Yeah. So, I mean, you'll write your report.
When they got married, she was.
Oh, wow.
And when he died,
Kerma
she didn't
will
even
print
show
out
up
copies
at
of it and she'll have it
the calling or the funeral. And we drove over to his house after
whatever
the
day the court happens.
funeral. And she was over there emptying the house.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I do not. It's very young.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I just, like I say, I do not want that case. I do not want that case. I
Belongings that you want.
no, she's so.
I actually wrote, when you all put in notes,
She was drug free. She married my brother.
and I go and I actually read every note, so I'm keeping up with your case as you are. I may not be doing the actual legwork for your case, right, but I keep up with your case.
Change the process.
Okay.
Oh, no, she has several court cases.
Yeah, I mean, showing up. So one of our volunteers is Paul, who is
She's got several.
questions that he has about what he should ask.
In
This
Jefferson
is
County, Clark County, and
what do I think about what's going on?
she's just a wonderful person.
Yeah.
I just really, yeah. I want to my ex-sister-in-law.
Right.
Anyway, I guess I'm ready for another case.
I love that. Okay. Something's wrong. Yeah.
I'm Roger. Oh, you're three-eyed. What's your real name? It's not just like or your meeting that you have with them once a month. You reach out to Yeah, sorry, have you moved here?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for example, Paul had his child has been going to child visit. Yeah, child has been going to large town, long lived in different towns, but said she wanted to go to the same school. Well, she didn't have a driver's license. And so,
There's a lot of
and so for DCS, we like
pretty much
overlook
leaves
that kind of thing
the
because it's the same party that she's ready to good enough. Where Paul said, hold on, mom doesn't have a driver's license. How should she exactly you? Legally. And that's legally. So they had to stop and they had to really think through those situations and those consequences. So that was, something that they brought to me. She's like, should I continue to harp on this? Absolutely. you know, hard on us, like, and so push that subject and make sure that we're doing that in order to, for everything to be safe and secure and legal.
Right.
And, you know, some people might not think of that, where Paul, but Paul wanted to know what my opinion of it was. So, right, absolutely. And so I'm more than happy to answer any of those kind of questions. And if I don't know the answer, then I go to Courtney. Courtney's been doing it a lot longer than I have.
So is somebody.
Exactly.
Hey, somebody find me an answer to this.
Exactly. And if we don't have an answer, we collectively come together, and that's the great thing about our staff. We collectively come together and talk out different situations, scenarios, and be like, well, this came up in a case where we weren't sure how to respond to it. What do you guys think? And we just bounce things off of each other really well. And so we do that even on a volunteer basis. Take some bounce things off of each other and talk about different cases.
Sometimes it's just different perspectives on something rather than anything else.
Oh, yeah.
And then like,
Ding, 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 ding. Oh, right. So I'm very young, I'm very cool on this.
well, I think in
Have you heard that yet?
I've always, yeah, he knew, and if therapist knows, placement knows, school knows, school actually. So to be able to be out telling the exact same, you know, and times like that, that's why it's very inspired here. I'm an advocate. Not everybody wants to write popular say that it's not technology. Well, on his house, they just have so they're writing, you know, it's so long, that was the thing, that's how they judged whether you were able, you know, no, it's not. That's what it is. Every day, but outside. Oh, yes, you know, shut your mouth. In this house, you know, and I mean, you didn't want them. You didn't want them to find out that you were outside. Right. Because you want the consequences. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, and I always think for us, right? Why are these things happening? Right now, that's why our job is so important. So, hey, this is right. And there's a lot of times that that's not just like. Right. Nobody's looking at us. You're training. I have to train. It's already. Yeah. We've already. That's what he says. Because he wasn't. You know, I think the same. Probably taking it on Friday. So targeting is 6-year-old. Those things, you know. The best of us, 6, but you're always. Wow, Lauren. Wow. They won't see. Judge Francis. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
she is. So it's coordinated. She got done with that. It's just
That was one there.
I was like,
Did stay together.
no, we were never together.
That's what we Oh, there were 6 months. But. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay, exciting. Good nervous. Whitney.
I can't sign on.
That's actually where I'm from, so I live in, yeah. Right, yeah. Right. I actually live in Kentucky, and honestly, I'm very thankful that I don't work in the community that I live in. I think it would be a lot harder if I did. A lot of the people that we work with are around my age, and I'm mortified that I would run into one of them if I worked in my community. So, yeah. So thankful that I work over here and live over there. I really enjoy that. It kind of makes a difference. Yeah.
Sounds like a got band, right?
Yeah. Right. It was really nice meeting you. Nice meeting you. All right, I'll be here. Lauren, I'll be here for the next one. All right. Good. It'll be good. Well, you know, I'm not good with I haven't gotten anything about
The background check yet. It'll probably, I just did it today, and so it'll probably take a little bit. Yes, and you get an email, and it's gonna ask you everywhere you ever lived. Pretty much. It's like, yes, like literally.
remember all that.
I know. Just try your best. I know. Well, it lasts for like the last 15 years.
Oh, well, then that's not too bad.
Okay.
Because the last 11 years I lived here in Kentucky.
Oh, okay. So it shouldn't be too bad.
And then Rhode Island for the 8 years
Tonight will be
before that.
recorded. If you need to watch it or anything, it's recorded. So good to see you. And I'll continue to just keep you updated. I've got a couple more interviews left, and then hopefully.
Yeah. I'll just keep
Yeah, 20, that's right. You're hours and you're like ahead of schedule.
I'm up for it. All right, you have a good
See you
evening.
later.
My keys.
How are you? Barely hanging on. That's not really disturbing news today. What else? You're the worst ever. Bad enough that I will give my notice if it happens. You only